As a premier community in Hampton Roads, James City County strives to maintain a high quality of life for all citizens through sound fiscal management and legislative actions. In an ongoing effort to increase transparency, your Board of Supervisors holds public meetings to garner citizen input before making important decisions. Here is tonight's meeting agenda. Stay tuned. The Board of Supervisors meeting will begin shortly.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the James City Service Authority Board of Directors regular meeting. Mr. Powell, would you call the roll?
Ms. Wainwright.
Here.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Here.
Ms. Larson.
Here.
Ms. McGlennon.
Here.
Ms. Knoll.
Here. Sir, do we have any public comment?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Our consent calendar tonight consists of our minutes adoption. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Mr. Powell, call the roll, please.
Ms. Wainwright.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Mr. McGlennon.
Aye.
Ms. Knoll.
Aye. Under board considerations, changes to the regulations governing utility service and resolution of appropriation for the fiscal year 2027 budget. Mr. Powell, would you like to give a staff presentation?
Yes, this item includes two separate resolutions. One is to affect changes to the regulations that reflect the proposed rate revisions that have been discussed during the budget public hearing and budget work session. And then the second resolution is to actually appropriate the fiscal year 27 budget. So staff recommends approval of both resolutions, and I would recommend that you adopt each resolution separately.
Any discussion or a motion, please?
Move the first resolution.
Ms. Wainwright.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Mr. McGlennon.
Aye.
And Ms. Knoll.
Aye. Second is contract award of $332.
Second resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll move the second resolution.
Ms. Wainwright.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Ms. McGlennon.
Aye.
And Ms. Knoll.
Aye.
Okay.
Number two, a contract award of $332,682 for Five Forks Water Treatment Plant Degasifiers replacement.
Yes, ma'am. The degasifiers at the Five Forks Water Treatment Plant are 20 years old and nearing the end of their life. These degasifiers, they remove waste products from the desalination process, so they're important to the operation of the water treatment plant. The bid is a sole source bid in the amount of $332,682 to Deloach Industries Incorporated, and staff recommends approval of the resolution.
I'll move the resolution.
Okay. Ms. Wainwright.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Mr. McGlennon.
Aye.
Ms. Knoll.
The board requests and directives. Anything for the board?
I just wanted to take a minute and just say thank you I know that we got a few questions during the budget process from people who were, had some issues or questions about why rates were what they were. And you went into great detail and also talked about infrastructure improvements that we're trying to make and things like that. I just want to thank you for that. Thank you and your staff that put together the budget.
If a general manager's update, sir, May 2026 monthly dashboard report.
I have no additional report other than I will send you an email tomorrow, but our next quarterly staff recognition event is going to be 2 weeks from Thursday out at Chickahominy Riverfront Park. So I'll send you an invitation for that.
We'd like a motion to adjourn till 5 PM on June 9, 2026 for the regular meeting.
So move.
Ms. Wainwright?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Ms. Knoll? All right, thank you.
We call this meeting of the James City County Board of Supervisors to order. Mr. Stevens, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Wainwright?
Here.
Ms. Wainwright represents the Powhatan District. Ms. Knoll?
Present.
Ms. Knoll represents the Stonehouse District. Mr. Eisenhower?
Here.
Mr. Eisenhower represents the Jamestown District. Ms. Larson?
Here.
Ms. Larson represents the Berkeley District and is Vice Chair to the Board. Mr. McGlinnan?
Here.
Mr. McGlinnan represents the Roberts District and is Chair to the Board. Sitting to my far left is Adam Kinsman, County Attorney, and I'm Scott Stevens, County Administrator, and my pleasure to be Clerk to the Board. All present.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. A couple of quick notes this evening before we begin. The applicant is requesting a deferral of the Westwood Park rezoning case this evening. There will not be a staff or applicant report presentation tonight. The public hearing will be left open until the June 9th, 2026 regular meeting. If you speak tonight, you will not be able to speak at the June 9th meeting. So though the public hearing will be open, we will keep it open to June 9th, and it might be more appropriate to speak after at the later date. In addition, the plan of finance for capital projects will not be discussed this evening. It will be brought back to the board at a later time. We usually begin our meetings with a moment of silence, followed by a pledge of allegiance. Tonight, we are going to ask our Assistant County Attorney, Andrew Dean, to lead us in the pledge. Andy is going off to serve his Naval Reserve duty in Florida for a couple of months. We hope to have him back here shortly in good spirits and good health. So, Andy, if you would join us at the podium after a moment of silence, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Andy, Godspeed, and we'll look forward to having you back with us soon. Okay. If I could ask Lynette Diaz to join me at the podium, I have a resolution I'd like to present to her. And our Adult Protective Services staff. Great. And Adult Services. And our Director of Social Services. Thank you all for being here. Okay. Whereas during the calendar year of 2025, the James City County, whereas adults, including older and vulnerable individuals, are essential members of a healthy and prosperous community, and their well-being strengthens our county. And whereas every adult deserves to live in a safe, secure, and supportive environment, free from abuse, neglect, and exploitation. And whereas the James City County Department of Social Services, JCSA DSS, remains committed to promoting safe environments, providing resources to protect vulnerable adults, and responding to reports of adult abuse and neglect. And whereas during the calendar year 2025, the James City County DSS completed 364 protective services investigations, 175 guardianship cases, and responded to 78 after-hours reports. And whereas citizens of James City County are encouraged to access an array of supporting resources to prevent adult abuse and neglect while supporting dignity and independence, and whereas Prevention efforts are most effective through partnerships among families, social services, providers, law enforcement, and community organizations. Now therefore, I, John J. McGlennon, Chair of the Board of Supervisors of James City County, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2026 as Adult Abuse Prevention Month, and encourage residents to recognize the signs of abuse, to support prevention efforts, and to work together to protect the safety, dignity, and well-being of vulnerable adults in our community. Now, therefore, in witness whereof, I hereby set my hand and cause the seal of the County of James City, Virginia, to be affixed this 12th day of May in 2026. Lynette, I know that the work that you and the members of staff of social services under the leadership of Barbara Watson is vital to this community, and really appreciate all the efforts that you undertake to make sure our adult citizens are also protected and able to live in a safe and healthy community. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. McGlennon, and to the board for this proclamation. We want to say thank you to our adult services and our adult protective services team who's here today. They work around the clock to ensure safety and well-being for those who are aging in our population. We also want to extend a thank you to our fire and EMS colleagues and nonprofits and other organizations who we partner with. We also invite the community to our first ever adult abuse awareness event, which will be held next Thursday, May 21st, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the James City County Recreation Center. It'll be family friendly and an opportunity to learn more about this important topic. So thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
you.
Here's the resolution
Thank you.
for you, and I think we'd like to get a picture
Okay.
with the board and the staff.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. We now go on to the public comment section of our agenda. This is a period when people can speak about any item that's not subject to a public hearing this evening, and I will first call on Gary Carlisle. Is that correct? Okay. Mr. Carlisle?
Mr. Chairman.
Mind giving us your name and address?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Gary Carlisle, and I live at 3724 Mesa River in Monticello Woods neighborhood. I'm here to request that you vote no and disapprove the requested changes to the 2022 master plan for Ford's Village. The requested change of reducing 79 assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing is not in James City County's best interest. James City County residents are getting older, as the board is well aware, and there's not enough assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing beds now. These beds were one of the attractive aspects of the 2022 Ford's Village plan that was approved by this board, and that provided 125 assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing beds. This proposal says, quote, a minimum of 46 assisted living care, skilled nursing beds will be provided. And as the saying says, if the minimum wasn't good enough, it wouldn't be the minimum. There is no incentive for the developer or the builders to provide more than the minimum 46 assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing beds, when they can build an additional 79 apartments. Adding 79 apartments, which will all have at least one car, will only make the traffic on News Road and the intersection of News Road and Monticello Avenue worse than it already is. The package you were provided says that there will be a traffic reduction with this proposal. I find it very hard to believe that we're adding 79 more apartments with cars at the expense of assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing, and the traffic's going down. That just doesn't make sense. To me, anyway. As the Planning Commission told me when I spoke, VDOT has said there are no more improvements to News Road or to the News Road and Monticello Avenue intersection. Can be done today. Adding 79 more apartments worth of cars who will mostly turn right when exiting the neighborhood and driving on News Road to the News Road and Monticello Avenue intersection is only going to make traffic and congestion worse than it already is. This proposal means that there's going to be a minimum of 491 additional cars that go through the News Road and Monticello Avenue intersection most days. 424 of those from Ford Village and 67 from the new townhomes that are currently being built in the Phase 4 section of the settlement on Monticello Avenue. It's not uncommon to not be able to get through the News Road Monticello Avenue intersection on one light cycle during the summer and holidays now. Adding an additional 491 cars to this will mean drivers will not be able to get through this intersection on one or maybe even two light cycles most days. The potential for more accidents with drivers trying to get through these intersections will increase. I respectfully request the Board of Supervisors vote no and disapprove the requested change to the Ford Village approved plan of 125 assisted living skilled nursing beds. Ideally, I'd like to see the entire Ford Village concept disapproved, but the impact of the additional traffic. But no, we need the previously approved 125 assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing beds. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Carlisle. Chris Henderson.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Chris Henderson, 101 Keystone. All right, I want to reiterate again my call for the meeting start time to be pushed back to 6 p.m. as a convenience to James City County citizens, particularly those of us who work full-time and who have to take time off from work to attend the one opportunity that we're given each month to address our local representatives. I'd also like to see this board approve an invocation at the beginning of its Board of Supervisors meeting, because I think it gives an air of solemnity and respect that is long overdue in these proceedings. Again, I'm going to reiterate concerns about traffic on 199. This evening this afternoon on my way through, I sat through 3 light cycles at the Jamestown Road intersection. Traffic was backed up from Jamestown Road through Route 5 and almost up to Monticello at 4:30. Real problem. I was shocked the other day when I was down on 60 near Lightfoot, and the through lanes on 199 were backed up for vehicles trying to exit 199 getting onto 60 in both directions. We got a real problem there, and that's within James City County confines, and we need to get ahead of this. And we need dual left-hand turn lanes and a right-hand turn lane that's dedicated that will allow the free flow of traffic off of 199 so we're not backing up through lanes. There were cars, I would estimate more than 50 on the overpass trying to get off of 199 on the overpass going over Richmond Road. So it's a real problem, a real challenge, and we need to get in front of it because traffic as a result of new construction, not only in York County, but also in James City County, is exploding in that area. So we've got to do something to do it. I want to congratulate the county for a terrific event. The 250th celebration, the concert with Kool and the Gang. I got to give it to you. Great, great program. I was there, took my wife. She reluctantly went, and she said it was one of the best events that she ever went to. So you got a fan out of my wife, and she's not easy to impress. So I thank you for that. My only suggestion is that if you can have the folks who prepare the field to put down some chemical that would knock down the bugs a little bit. I mean, they were a bit overwhelming, really, but that would be great. And if we could work on improving parking, getting in and out of that to make it more free-flowing, those would be my two major suggestions for the event. All right. I called the county administrator today and let him know at the very last minute about a seminar that was put on by the University of Virginia School of Architecture about affordable housing. And it was an unbelievable seminar. And I heard the finest description of what a zoning ordinance is. And they described the zoning ordinance as residual scar tissue remaining from previous development battles. And that is so true. It is so true. And they said, we've got to think about zoning differently to encourage the things that we want, particularly as it comes to affordable housing. And they offered a lot of different strategies that I'll be happy to share, maybe in a little memo. I sent the link to Mr. Stevens, who ought to be able to distribute that to staff so that they can learn what some great minds have to say about affordable housing and how you get there. But needless to say, there's not a single strategy. The thing that I found most interesting was that the really advancing communities have a pattern book of pre-approved small home plans that if you elect to do a certain model that's pre-approved, they don't charge any permitting fees, and it's easy. So there's multiple things, considerations. It's not only the initial cost, but it's the operating cost, which brings me to your budget. We are, as we continue to grow our county budgets, we are making James City County unaffordable except for the wealthy. I want to encourage you to adopt a budget that is at least 78 cents, not any more. Lower would be better. And anyway, on your board consideration, I support the Ford's Colony project. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rooney? Is it Tim or Jim? I'm not, Jim? Okay.
Chairman, thank you, Board. I'm only here briefly to just discuss the restaurant or the food tax in general increase that we're looking at. I've been in the hospitality business over 50 years. I'm 76 years old. I'm still working as a server. I work at Colonial Williamsburg, although that's not the county, that's the city of Williamsburg. And over the years, I've seen taxes go up and up and up. This last February, Williamsburg had put through their food tax. Here's what I've seen since March 1st. On a daily basis, I see check average dropping, and I see the drink average dropping. I see people switching from beverages to water. I see people switching from desserts to no desserts. I see people splitting meals. All of that at the same time. And it's not universal, but it's more than I've ever seen over the past 20 years where this has come up. And Williamsburg, we're family oriented. We've got our own families here. We're bringing all these people inside. We're not a Disneyland. We're not Orlando. We're not California. But we're trying to service everybody here. The cash cow for taxing on beverages and food and all the hot meals that you can get out of a Publix or whatever, it's there, but people are starting to switch their habits downward. It's becoming a wash. What you want to see go up in taxes, you're going to see come back down in total sales, and you're not going to get the increase that you're really looking for. It's just simple mathematics. I see it in my pocket. Yesterday, I waited on 16 guests. Not one guest ordered a drink, and I'm working at the golf course. That's where people drink. It's just what people do. They have fun, they drink, they're with families. It is what it is. So that's what I'm asking you to just consider it again for future time as we keep going, because once you start, it doesn't stop. And we don't need to be matching Williamsburg, even though we're James City County. What's good for them may not be good for us. The other part of that is what happens when, you know, we need to get more money in the future. It just, restaurateurs are having a hard time. They're closing every year. We're seeing more and more restaurants closing since COVID. COVID was the big one. Anyway, I also live in a complex. I've been here 20 years in a county, and I also live in LaFontaine. Our residents, we have 160 families there. Out of that 160 families, we have approximately 75% are over 55 years old. Limited incomes for a good half of them. Same thing applies. We try to go out once a month. We try to rotate our restaurant meals in the county where we have a nice gathering for these older folks so they can get together once a month. And we're seeing the same thing. They're saying, what can we do to bring costs down? At the HOA that I was president of for the last 3 years, we struggled. Budget sessions took us, instead of 1 or 2 sessions, this past one for this past year, it took us 6 budget sessions to get our budget approved. And we're trying to keep it below 300. And we came in at 258, but we cut some services. Yes, we did. We cut some of this, we cut some of that, shortened the pool hours, changed some landscaping, but we worked at it. And it's a fact of life. And I'm asking the county to consider their costs, consider where the money's coming from, and where you're gonna get it in the future, okay? These just become more difficult as we go. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rooney. Catherine Rothschild.
Good evening. I have a little laryngitis. My husband was actually praying for more laryngitis. My friends will appreciate that. I just want to say, to begin with, what a treat it is to see Tracy Wainwright on your board. She is an incredible woman, mother, homeschool teacher, and she's a wonderful breath of fresh air on the Board of Supervisors. I was told that this period of time was allotted for me to only discuss the general budget. I'm in favor of reducing the budget everywhere that you can. There's never been a budget ever created that couldn't be reduced, and that's what we need to do. Our families reduce our budgets, everybody's reducing their budgets, and that's what this Board of Supervisors should do. Now, with regard to John, I understand that you're in favor of this admissions tax, and I would just like some clarification. Is that correct?
Kathy, we don't, as you know, we do not engage in back and forth during public comment.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, can we change that rule? It certainly would be nice to have a conversation with our board members. After all, you wouldn't be here without us. Certainly would be nice. Is there a motion that somebody can pass to do that? That's too bad, because transparency is what the American voters really want. It's what everybody in James City County wants. So when you decide your position on this, have you decided your position, or you don't know yet? Silence, okay. So when you do decide, I'd like to know what your decision is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That closes public comment, and we will now go on. We have no items for the consent calendar this evening. We have public hearings. Tonight, Dr. Kira Allman is here representing the Planning Commission. She chairs the Planning Commission this year and is the Roberts District Representative. And our first item is the Verizon franchise agreement. Liz Parman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Before you is a resolution approving a non-exclusive cable franchise agreement between the county and Verizon Virginia LLC. This agreement is substantively the same as the county's agreements with Cox Communications and Chantel out of Western Virginia. This agreement would give county residents within Verizon's service area a third option for cable provision. Mr. Matt Ogburn is here from Verizon, and he is happy to answer any questions you might have. I'm also happy to answer any questions as well.
Any questions for Ms. Parman?
Liz.
Let me just say, Liz, for transparency, this is the same kind of franchise agreement we have with other providers as well.
That's correct. Sorry, I almost called you judge. No, that's correct. We have to follow federal law here. So these agreements are generally all very much the same. We can't grant a monopoly. We can't address internet service, and we can't establish rates in this agreement. But we can require Verizon to provide certain PEG channels and also cable service to our facilities, which this does.
And I think it is important to point out to our residents that, in fact, we do not have an exclusive agreement with any cable provider, that we can address each individual cases that come forward. I think we have. Yeah,
I was going to ask one question on the slide here, and that is that the little red areas obviously indicate initial service area. It appears then that they are willing, looks like their ultimately goal is to expand throughout the county. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, but I'm going to have Mr. Ogburn come up and answer that.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Matt Ogburn. I'm the Director of Government Relations for Verizon in Virginia. To answer your question, we do have plans to, as we do throughout the state, to eventually build out to certain areas. I don't have any hard plans of where and when within the county at the moment, but the red represents the initial service area. But the agreement does not limit us to build out to other areas.
Mr. Ogburn, while we have you here, we have a couple of questions from board members.
Going to ask about Ford's Comp.
If I can, I will, because we have this service you're talking about here is primarily cable, correct?
So a video franchise allows us to offer video cable, yes.
Video cable. So is this different from FiOS, or is this?
This is FiOS.
This is FiOS.
Yes, sir.
So essentially, this is where FiOS will finally be coming to most of the areas, some of the areas of the county.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So what this agreement allows us is, in the areas that we already have FiOS internet only, it allows us to offer those customers video service as well.
The other question I had deals with the cell phone service.
Yes, sir.
We have several places, specifically in my neighborhood, Ford's Colony, where I call them the Verizon black holes. So you lose drop calls. It depends on where you're at. Some people, it's in their living room. Some people, for me, when I'm driving, there are 2 or 3 places I know I'm going to lose the call. One of the things I noticed was just recently the little 5G towers that Verizon has put at several places in Newtown, which are much shorter. I guess they're sort of like a distributed antenna type system. Is that correct?
The shorter ones are generally called small cells.
Small, yeah.
So it's a higher bandwidth, shorter area that they cover.
Okay.
As opposed to the larger towers.
Would that be an option that Verizon would consider to cover some of the gaps in service in areas where we don't have the large towers don't have the ability to reach into some of our communities like that? Is that something that I noticed we've done it in Newtown, but I'm wondering what your willingness or openness to try to address some of this based on communities where we're having that kind of difficulty?
Always willing to have a conversation. I'm more than happy to connect with you and connect you with our wireless engineering team. We can look at the area, see what the signal looks like, and we can talk about potential solutions.
Okay, I appreciate it, because if you're going to be around after the meeting, if not, I'll have our staff make contact with you, because I would like to definitely set up a meeting if we can to try to look at how we could try to.
I'm happy to reach out to you directly. I'm sure I can find your email on the website. I can send you an email and we can set up a time to meet.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
And I believe you and I have talked in the past regarding the, I don't know if they're even in use anymore, the things that are by the side of the road that get hit and then they're beat up for months, years at a time. And we do get calls about those. And what is the best way to communicate and hopefully move it along to get repairs done faster so eyesores don't have to be. And I guess sometimes I question, like particularly the one at Route 5 in Centerville, it gets hit all the time. So why don't we move it to somewhere else so where it won't possibly get hit all the time? So what's the best way to communicate some of that to you?
I believe you got in contact with Patrick Page very recently, and I was able
Is that
to
the
get.
best way to do it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I'm. Feel free to make me your point of contact.
Okay.
There was, I think, a case recently where a box was damaged.
Yeah, it
I
did
think
get
you had
fixed.
emailed Patrick, and I was able to get with our wireline teams, and we were able to fix that box pretty quickly.
Okay.
So if you have other areas you'd like us to look at, I can send you an email as well,
Be
and
great.
that way we can connect.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm just going to jump on Mr. Eisenhower's point and encourage you to look at some of the other black holes that exist in the county. I know along Jamestown Road we've had some serious problems. We have them in a number of areas along Lake Powell Road as well. And it'd be helpful to try to figure out what's going on and why we're dropping calls in the middle of conversations in those areas. I also, related to those utility cabinets, there is one that appears to be a remnant from previous use at the Skiffs Creek Terrace townhouse complex, and we've tried to have somebody address that issue and to get rid of that utility box that's sitting in the parking lot there. It's not serving any purpose, and we can't seem to get Verizon to take it away. Is there any way we can get that removed?
I apologize to sound like a broken record, but a similar answer. I'm more than happy to get you in touch with our wireline teams. We can have a conversation about it. I can take a look with them to see if the box is still being utilized or not. Sometimes it may look like it's not, but it is. Since we do have a carrier of last resort obligation to provide copper to every citizen. And so we can take a look to see if we have any active lines going through that box, and see what the situation is.
And if you do, it might make sense to replace the box rather than remove it, but that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any questions relating to the franchise agreement or any other issues?
Anything else while I'm here?
Thank you for your.
Yes, sir, absolutely. All right, thank y'all.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Okay. We have the agreement in front of us. Does somebody want to move
I'll move that.
the approval?
Approval of the agreement.
Is this a public hearing to be open it or?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll open the public.
We had our own
hearing.
public hearing.
So I will close the public hearing.
All right.
Now.
I will move the franchise agreement
Franchise
approval.
agreement, right. Okay, Mr. Stevens, just call the roll, please.
Ms. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Wainwright?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
We now move on to the next public hearing, which is the grant of the right-of-way, right? Okay, I'm just looking for it. Right, at 8429 Pocahontas Trail to Dominion Energy. Okay, and that would be Mr. Dean.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Andrew Dean, Assistant County Attorney. So Dominion Energy has asked the county to convey a right-of-way. This is to facilitate upgrades to Virginia natural gas infrastructure located at 8429 Pocahontas Trail. That's the new Grove Convenience Center location. The right-of-way would be located within the existing Dominion Energy pole line easement, and I'll just point out that I attached to this proposed right-of-way agreement, I attached this right-of-way agreement to the memo that you have in your packet, and the last page shows the location of that easement. Staff obviously recommends approval of the right-of-way agreement, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Anybody have questions for Mr. Dean?
I think we could ask Dominion if we could get underground wire, as long as we're on a roll here.
All right. We do not have any comment from the Planning Commission. I will open the public hearing. No cards? Close the public hearing and look to the board for direction.
I will move the granting of the right-of-way over 8429 Pocahontas Trail to Dominion Energy.
Great. Okay, we have a motion. Mrs. Stevens, you call the roll, please.
Ms. Wainwright?
Aye.
Ms. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Now, SUP 260001, 147 Whiting Avenue, short-term rental. Mr. Albiston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Mr. George B. Buskey has applied on behalf of his wife, Sonia D. Savage, for a rental of rooms SUP to allow for the short-term rental of up to 2 bedrooms in the 3-bedroom single-family home they currently live in at 147 Whiting Avenue. The property is zoned R2 General Residential, is designated low-density residential on the Comprehensive Plan land use map, and is located inside of the primary service area. This application was created as a result of a violation of a short-term rental operating at this property without an approved SUP. This application is now here to remedy that situation by attempting to receive an approval on this SUP.
Thank you, Mr. Albiston. Any questions for staff?
I apologize, I have just a little bit more.
I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Not at all. The proposal includes no changes to the size or footprint of the house. Although the rental of rooms use allows for the short-term rental of up to 3 bedrooms, proposed condition number 3 limits this SUP to only allow for the short-term rental of up to 2 bedrooms, because this is a 3-bedroom home and the applicant and owner will be living in one of the 3 bedrooms. The owner-occupied nature of the short-term rental allows for active monitoring of guest activity and behavior. This mitigates expected impacts to adjacent properties to such an extent that they are expected to be similar to the impacts caused by a typical 3-bedroom single-family home. Staff finds the owner-occupied nature of the application to be a favorable factor of the application and consistent with one of the 4 recommendations for short-term rentals provided in the comprehensive plan. However, since the application is not consistent with the other 3 standards, staff is unable to recommend approval of this application. At its April 1st, 2026 regular meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this application with an additional condition by a vote of 5-1. Should the board approve this application, staff has provided the proposed conditions for consideration. Happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is also available.
Ow.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Albiston?
A few questions. I was reading on the application, the plan analysis and so forth, and it does not meet 3 out of the 4 rules that we have in the comprehensive plan. And it just bothers me that we could even approve something like this, because we're very strict with everybody else. So I can't recommend it. Also, when you get on the GIS system, it shows that this property only has 2 bedrooms and 1 bath, but 2,152 square feet, which is kind of strange. And Ms. Wainwright and I went out there and looked at it, and just something that bothered me, and I was looking at on the GIS, I went to the history and I went to the taxes. The owner has not paid their taxes on time since 2002. Not your problem, but I'm thinking, I can't vote for it.
So to follow up with a question, so typically, because I have friends who have gone through the process, there is a new certificate of occupancy, correct, that is obtained, which includes an inspection of the house. What remedy is there in the difference between how the house is currently listed with the county as a 2-bedroom, 1 bath versus how it's listed as an Airbnb, as a 3-bedroom? Haven't looked to see how many baths that they claim. Is there a reconciliation process that happens when there's that difference between what actually exists and what's in the system?
So in defense of that property information system you're referring to, that's a best effort by staff, but
Absolutely.
trying to get accurate information for every structure in the county can be difficult, especially some older structures like this one. But my understanding is that when they go and do that certificate of occupancy inspection, that would be the opportunity for them to reevaluate the structure and update those records.
My other concern, so I actually received an email from one of our planning commissioners today that it is currently listed, that's kind of what prompted as we look through, what's listed and what actually has the permit. I'm usually in favor of Airbnbs. I think it's a great way for people to utilize their property. However, my understanding is in Planning Commission, and I don't know with staff or just Planning Commission, they said it was 3 bedrooms listed, but they changed it to 2. As of today, when one of our commissioners looked, it is still listed as a 3-bedroom. So what recourse do we have if there's a because it seems like there's already several elements of non-compliance with this particular application.
In terms of the applicant's attempts to make changes to those listings, I'll leave that to him to speak to. But in terms of if moving forward, if this is approved and then we notice that the listing is inconsistent with the special use permit, which is 2 bedrooms, 4 occupants, and not the entire home, those would be the standards that are in conflict with the listings as they stand today. Those would be violations of the SUP. We'd reach out to the applicant, let them know they're in violation. We'd try and get them to come back into compliance as we do with all violations. If they don't make a good faith effort to come back into compliance, then we'd cite them with the violation and then escalate as necessary until it's either resolved or the process plays out as a violation.
And is that the same thing that happens if the SUP is not approved and it continues to operate?
Yes, it's a similar process that it would be a different violation, but a similar process, yes.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions for staff? Planning Commission does have a report on this one. Dr. Allman?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. On April 1st, 2026, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the SUP for short-term rental at 147 Whiting Avenue with a roll call vote of 5-1. During the public hearing, multiple individuals spoke in favor of the application. The applicant presented the request for approval and noted that his neighbors supported the application, with some attending the meeting in person. A neighbor spoke in support of the project, along with a pastor from the church the applicant attends. No letters or comments in opposition were entered during the public hearing. Planning Commission discussions centered on the property's compliance with county standards for short-term rentals and the impact of short-term rentals on residential character because the property did not meet 3 of the 4 comprehensive plan standards. Commissioners questioned the applicant regarding several details about the property and the process by which he came to apply for an SUP. Specifically, commissioners asked about a notice of violation which had been returned as undeliverable, and the applicant explained it had been delivered to the wrong address. Commissioners also raised concerns about the property being listed online as a 3-bedroom rental, and the applicant clarified that he had recently updated the listing to 2 bedrooms. The Commission discussed adding a condition to require the owner to reside on the property, which the applicant agreed to. Ultimately, several commissioners supported the application due to the strong neighbor support and the applicant's presentation on the day. However, a commissioner pointed out that in general, the Commission is fairly inconsistent in terms of how it assesses short-term rental applications, evaluating each one very much on a case-by-case basis. And this is in part due to the restrictive nature of the criteria for short-term rentals. It was suggested that perhaps the criteria should be revisited at some point. Other commissioners expressed general skepticism about short-term rentals due to their potential negative impact on the character of neighborhoods. The one vote against the application was due to this reservation about commercial uses in residential neighborhoods. And that concludes the Planning Commission report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Dr. Allman? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, we have no speaker cards on this one, so I'll open the public hearing, and I think I will ask whether the board would like to defer action on this item, keep the plan.
I was going to say, I would, to ensure that we have all of the information completely correct, as it's raised by some of our fellow supervisors, I think maybe the best thing to do would be to defer this until our next meeting, and or next month, whichever works for the applicant or staff best. But what I'd like to have it come back is with the ability for staff to go out and verify what shows on the database versus what is physically there on the ground, so that we know exactly what we have and we have the record complete and accurate about what we're dealing with the property. And then we can then proceed from that point. Also, you know, I think it's a valid point that was raised by the Planning Commission that we have criteria which seem to be pretty restrictive. It's really hard to meet all the criteria. And we have approved quite a few that have met some, but not all of them. And I think the Planning Commission maybe has made a good point that maybe we need to revisit the criteria that we're looking at in the longer term.
Then, Mr. Eisenhower, would you move to defer this action?
I'd move to defer, and
I think maybe the July meeting would be a less crowded agenda.
More appropriate, yes.
Okay. All right. Ms. Stevens, would you call the roll, please, on deferral?
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Ms. Wainwright?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
No.
Ms. Knoll?
No.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, so we'll bring this issue back, keep the public hearing open and bring this issue back in July. Okay. The next issue is Z 230004 MP 230001 Westwood Park rezoning, and the applicant has requested a deferral of this case until June. Is there any objection to that? Okay. I will open the public hearing, but there will be no staff report, and there are no speaker cards this evening. Is that right? Okay. So I'll keep the public hearing open on this matter to our June meeting. Okay. All right. Our fifth public hearing is LU 200003 Eastern State Parcels A and B and D Land Use Designation Change. Terry Costello will give the staff presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. The land use application LU-20-0003 Eastern State Parcels A, B, and D was submitted during the 2045 Comprehensive Plan Update to request a change of the designation from federal, state, or county land to mixed use. Proposed description language was developed during the 2045 Comprehensive Plan Update and is included in the memorandum. This application was postponed until such time that a rezoning application for the property was submitted. On November 23rd, 2023, a rezoning application Z-23-0008 was submitted for parcels A, B, and D, and this application was considered at the December 2nd, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. Staff welcomes the board's discussion regarding the proposed land use designation change and the description language. I'll be here to answer any questions you may have, and thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Costello?
Not from Ms. Costello. I would have a question for Mr. Kinsman, and that is that if the board just continues this and so that we could maybe keep it open until we actually hear the actual case for Cardinal Ridge, that would not present any problem for us. Okay. And then the other thing is that there is no requirement, if I understand it, legally no requirement that we deal with this prior to. In other words, if we had land, the public lands designation on it right now, if this application came to us, it was still public lands in the Planning Commission. I mean, in the comprehensive plan. but somebody made an application to change that zoning, we could still do that without having to amend the comprehensive plan first. Okay? An answer.
Any other questions or discussion before I open the public hearing? There's no Planning Commission report on this item. Let me go ahead and open the public hearing. Let me just indicate that we do have some speaker cards. I will say that the board, as I understand, does not intend to act on this item tonight. So the opportunity to speak will be either tonight, if you wish, or at our June 9th meeting, but not at both. And so I'll ask, as I call the folks who have submitted materials, speaker cards, if they wish to speak tonight or to wait until the June meeting. Timothy Trant. Mr. Trant. Wait. Let's see. Harry Falls. Claudia Kirk. Okay. Kirk, if you just state your name and address.
Hey, my name's Claudia Kirk. I live at 121 Rosemount in Williamsburg, but it's in James City County. So my concerns are that the state submitted this, rezoning request, and they apparently haven't thought about putting any conservation easements on it, as far as I can tell. It's all being requested as mixed use, even though, for example, Parcel D, which is west of I-99, or 199, it's, all wetlands, as you probably know. It's not accessible by car, but they've included that in the request. There's a lot of riparian buffer in there. I guess it's not just riparian buffer, it's the resource protection area in there. And that's, again, they're just requesting the whole thing as mixed use. They, you're gonna have a lot of new impermeable area that you're adding. And you've got Powhatan Creek that's already losing stream quality. It's impaired, it's impacted. The stream one of the streams is now non-supporting. And floodwater is going to come through my community, which is Ford's Colony, and to my back door, which is right on Powhatan Creek there. So I guess it's all going to fall on the board here to try to, make sure that there's adequate protection for those of us living downstream of this. And the state, it seems like the state's just trying to raise as much money as they can, the way they've set it up. And they're not really considering that this land needs to be protected in any way. And they're, they're, at the same time that, this one part of the state's trying to raise money by selling the land, there's another part of the state that's trying to protect this kind of land because it's, got a lot of slopes, it's got a lot of wet area. And so I fault the state more, and I'm just hoping that you all will, be the buffer we need between us and the state so that this mature forest can be preserved. And I think next month when it comes up between the two developments, Westwood and Cardinal Ridge, that you would look at both of those together, all of the development, so you get a comprehensive view of what's going to happen to this land if it gets developed as proposed. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kirk. Chris Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Henderson, 101 Keystone. 25, 30 years ago, I actually served on the Crossroads study. And this area was intended to be an extension of Newtown. So I don't disagree with the intent to provide some mixed-use overlay, but without the specifics of the intended land use in its entirety, I think it would be premature, and I would have to agree with Mr. Eisenhower, that we're kind of putting the cart before the horse, that there is so much detail that needs to be resolved with respect to the overall impact of development on this particular site, not the least of which are environmental concerns and traffic concerns. But I think there needs to be really a broader community discussion about this particular parcel. It is literally the hole in the donut of James City County and will be at the center of what should become its central business district and downtown area. And I think we're missing a real opportunity to look at this property more holistically and articulate to the Commonwealth and to developers what is James City County's vision for the Eastern State property. And let's not be satisfied with the vision articulated by a for-profit developer when in fact we might be able to devise a plan that meets some very critical community needs, particularly in the affordable housing arena. If there was one opportunity that is located close to services, and there are commercial areas that are proposed and would naturally occur given a free market solution up there by the interchange of 199 and Long Hill, there's a real opportunity to make a walkable, livable community of affordable housing. And I think that's, really an achievable vision given public commitment and private underwriting of certain aspects. And, I would just advise the board to move slowly and to proceed cautiously with regard to this project, because it literally will define the future course of what should be the most central business area for James City County. So again, proceed with caution. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Veverka. And did you wish to speak tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Robert Veverka, 5133 O'Halloran Way. I live in the the Muse development, which would be adjacent across the street from this area. And with the county's mega center already under construction, and I've seen the traffic plans for circles and things to be added. Traffic's already kind of bad getting out of our neighborhood. And if you add the developments that are proposed with Cardinal Ridge, 1,000 homes plus retail, I think it's going to just be a nightmare going forward. So as far as redeveloping this area, I think I agree with what the other speakers have said. The county needs to take a slow approach and look at this more holistically. Perhaps parkland should be considered as part of the developments. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Veverka. Those are all the speaker cards that I have this evening, and two individuals did speak. The other individuals can speak at the June meeting, and I'll just ask if the board has any objection to holding this case over till the June 9th meeting.
If you need a motion, I'll defer to continue to June 9th.
I did have a question for Ms. Costello, if I could.
Sure.
Could you tell me what, let's say that it stays with the property owner, the state, public lands, if you don't have the answer tonight, but you could get it, could you let me know what all are the possibilities that the state could do with that property under the public lands designation?
I can get that information
Thank
to
you.
Mr. Eisenhower, you have a motion?
Yeah, motion to continue this till the June 9th meeting.
Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Ms. Wainwright?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Ms. Null?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. We have another public hearing. It is an ordinance to levy an admissions tax. Sharon McCarthy.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Board of Supervisors.
Good evening.
The purpose of this specific public hearing is to invite public comment on an admissions tax. Before we open the public hearing, we thought it may be helpful to provide some high-level information as it pertains to the admissions tax. The admissions tax was not included in the proposed budget because the state had not signed it into law at the time that the proposed budget was released on March the 27th. Previously, York and James City counties were the only counties in the state not allowed to levy an admissions tax. The Code of Virginia now provides us the ability to levy admissions tax up to 10%. A locality's ordinance can provide for exclusions to the tax and/or a cap on the rate and/or amount. If approved, the county administrator is recommending that the rate be effective on July 1st, 2026, and that the revenue generated by the tax be earmarked for debt service and/or capital purposes. Some of the types of events that would qualify are amusement parks, which would likely be the county's most significant payer, as well as sporting events, escape rooms, music, movie theaters, etc. And as you can see by this list, it gets pretty granular into items such as ice skating, batting cages, and items of that nature. From our research, we have found that many localities do exclude some events in common, such as those that are held for charitable purposes, as well as school-sponsored events. You can also include something very specific, such as gym memberships, country memberships, and items of that nature. That concludes my remarks. I would recommend that the public hearing be opened at this time and that any board discussion perhaps follow after the public hearing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. McCarthy. Anybody have questions for Ms. McCarthy before we move on?
I'll wait till after, like she told me.
Okay. All right, well, let me go ahead and then open the public hearing. And I have a card from Susan Franz.
Good evening. I'm Susan Franz, 103 Cardinal Court, and I'm a proud resident of this county. I'm here tonight to respectfully but firmly oppose the proposed admissions tax at whatever rate on sporting events, theater, amusement parks, everything that's proposed up here. The tourist argument does not hold. I understand the reasoning that tourists will absorb much of this cost and residents won't feel it. But that assumption is simply wrong. Many of us have chosen to live here precisely because of this community's rich cultural and recreational life. We attend these events, we buy these tickets, we take our families to these parks and events. A tax doesn't land on some abstract visitor, it lands on us, your constituents, every single time. Also, this tax does not exist in isolation. Residents are already absorbing a significant property tax increase. Additionally, as we've heard tonight, the meals tax is hurting the restaurant business. We've already heard about how this is really going to destroy what's going on with restaurants. And now you're considering an admissions tax. At what point does this board ask itself, not what else can we tax, but where can we spend more wisely? These costs compound. They erode the affordability and the character of the very community you were elected to protect. Before layering on another tax, I urge you guys to conduct a serious review of existing expenditures. Every department, every contract, every line item deserves scrutiny. Residents deserve to see that their government has exhausted every efficiency before reaching into our pockets again. The arts, athletics, and culture of this county are not luxuries to be taxed. They are the lifeblood of this community. They are why people move here, stay here, and spend here. Tax them, and you risk undermining the very tourism economy you're counting on. I ask you to vote no on this proposal and get back to the hard work of responsible governance. Thank you so much.
Chris Henderson.
Chris Henderson, 101 Keystone. Susan was very eloquent, and I'd like to echo those remarks that we are a tourist town, and people make choices with their money. And to the extent that we add $10 to the admission cost to go to Busch Gardens, that could be the difference between a family choosing us or going to the Outer Banks or Myrtle Beach or Orlando. Because if our pricing meets or exceeds those, then we lose some of the value. Tickets for Busch Gardens are upwards of $80, $90 per person. And then they charge you $30 to park your vehicle on top of it. I mean, we're really becoming unaffordable for the average citizen. And I think it's important that the board recognize that we have an affordability issue, and that this board and that this county do everything within its power, even when it comes to denying itself, to keep its budget at the absolute minimum. We cannot afford to be the premier community that I've heard many on this dais say that we are and aspire to be. Many of our people are working class citizens, blue collar folks, and predominantly retirees, most of whom are on a fixed income. And if we take them out of the amusement park business and the attraction business and all of the other things of museums and gardens and circuses and carnivals, well, then who's going to go? Who is going to go? So I'm urging caution. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. Thank you.
Stephen Maines.
Good evening, Supervisors. My name is Stephen Maines. I live at 3781 Captain Wind Drive in the Berkeley District of James City County. And I'm here tonight to strongly oppose the 10% admission tax, and I think that's related to the property tax increase and the 50% meals tax increase that we've already discussed. It's time to examine what we're being told and speak some hard truths. We've been told that the initial budget proposal cut taxes by 3 cents. But we all know that the 3-cent rate reduction didn't cut anything. It was actually a 5.5-cent tax increase. And then you offer a proposed rebate of 2 cents to, quote, cushion the blow. But if you have to cushion the impact on fixed incomes, the working poor, new families, and the 30% plus of James City County residents who are on assistance, then you should eliminate the cause of the distress. The very spending that you are approving. It's time for this to end. We've been told that the meals tax increase is a reaction to the so-called lost revenue from the 3-cent rate reduction. In the very same meeting where you finished raising our taxes, our property taxes, 21% in the last cycle, you supervisors openly asked how soon you could raise the meals tax. This has been baked in for the last year. You are already hunting for more money from taxpayers. It's time for this to end. We've been told that we need a 10% admission tax to make up revenue, but then we hear that the fact that this was not even included in the budget, but we're already now looking for new ways to find revenue. That tells us that we're looking for revenue first and savings last. We are not looking at affordability at all. By pricing visitors out of Jamestown and Busch Gardens, we are not making our attractions more attractive. I know none of you have ever priced a product or a service and calculated the price point where you will maximize your return. But raising prices too high drives customers away and it reduces your revenue. You only get away with this unwise course of action because it doesn't affect you personally. You can always tax the residents more next year, and it's time for it to end. These new taxes are a shell game, taking more money out of our pockets while pretending to give some back. I have with me a petition signed by more than 500 James City County residents who agree, and they are urging you to reject these tax increases and rein in spending. We've heard these excuses before, but the real problem isn't that residents aren't taxed enough. The problem is spending. The county budget continues to grow while families struggle with higher mortgages, higher grocery bills, and higher cost of living. But how can you limit the rate of spending growth? By rejecting a budget that starts with anticipated revenue, just like this 10% tax does, instead of needs. Every family in this county defers or eliminates spending to stay within their means. They set a spending limit over which they cannot go, and they stick to it. It's time for them doing it alone to end. I understand this is uncomfortable. Anything new is. But is it really new? Well, let's look at the record. I would say that it is extremely new for many of the people here on the board. I'd be impolite probably if I'd name names, but one supervisor has not voted against a tax increase in 27 straight years. Another has not voted against one in 16 sessions. A third has voted to raise taxes 9 straight times. It's time for this to end. James City County residents are saying enough is enough. Control the spending. Live within our means. Stop shifting the cost of misgovernance onto our families, our seniors, our working poor, and our small businesses. Please vote no to these tax increases, and particularly this one. Honor the over 500 signatures on this petition and the thousands more who feel the same way but couldn't be here before 5 p.m. on a work night to speak. So thank you very much. I'm happy to present this petition to the board.
That concludes the public hearing process. I'll close the public hearing and ask for the board's discussion, direction.
Ask a question if I could of Ms. McCarthy. Have you spoken with your counterpart in York County? They were also given this ability this year. Do you know what their plan is on this?
Yes, my understanding is they're sort of where we are at this point. They did include a small amount in their adopted budget. They're currently going through the potential list of exclusions. I know they formed a committee and they're meeting regularly to discuss their options. I have not heard anything definitive in terms of what rate or any cap that they may be looking to do.
You know, when with their committee, they would hope to come back to their board?
My understanding is they are looking for a July 1st effective date, so they have already adopted their budget for next year, so it would need to occur between now and July 1st if they were looking to do that. They also could also do it as a supplemental appropriation during fiscal year 2027 if they wanted a different effective date.
Ms. Larson, we have heard anywhere from 6% to 10% in York County. It's been, as they're working through, I think they're still trying to figure that out, but they're looking at a range of it and who would they include as well. And she's talked on the finance side. I've talked with their county administrator. My expectation is they will do something. It's just, they're still working through that.
Because I know at one point that we had talked about the joint ticket situation that often occurs between the two large amusement, one on their side and one on our side, and how if we did something different than they did, how confusing would that be, or how would we work that out if that's the...
I know that is still one of the concerns.
Okay, all right, and thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions for Ms. McCarthy? Have any recommendation for action?
I would, first of all, we have a resolution, but it's sort of I would call a placeholder. It has very little detail, detail in it. I think based upon what we're seeing our counterparts over in York doing, I think we probably of us individually and put together a consensus, if you will, of what you think the board would be willing to accept. I think on.
There
Is
you
it
go.
working now? Okay, sorry about that. I would personally like to see some detail because I think that there's a large swath of things that could be charged to, and I'm not interested in doing that for most of them. I think that the big one would be, for me, the amusement park, theme park approach. So I think the category that the board would be willing to look at and the other categories we'd be willing to exclude needs to be drafted into a resolution so that we could bring that back. And I understand that basically this is not part of the budget. This is something separate from the budget. As long as we could do it just like York anytime prior to the 1st of July. So I would like to maybe have an update on it at our work session later this month. And if it's ready, then fine. If not, we could do it in June.
I think for me that rather than go on the fly at, I'm not interested in school events. I can tell you that right off the bat. And I'm not interested in 10%. I'm more comfortable with 6. But I would also like to get, recommendations on, what does it mean, for the, say if it's a movie, like what does that mean? What's the amount, that you're looking at? Does it, and so, it would be much easier if we could, rather than get something like this today and try to do something on the fly, get some more information about the impact.
We can make some estimates. Part of it will be access to information. And when you get it down to a movie theater and we try to generate revenue, you will know what that particular one is generating. And I think the Commissioner of Revenue would be reluctant to release that. So some of that information we may know as the county through the Commissioner's office, but we don't know that as your finance staff and county administrator. So I'm not sure we can make very accurate estimations. And for us, and again, wherever you end up, I think in talking with our county attorney, if there are things you absolutely would like to include, then we would rather draft in an ordinance that would be inclusive of things, not trying to exclude. You could certainly list broad categories that you absolutely want to exclude, but we'd want to make sure we capture the 1 or 5 or 10 types of businesses sort of listed in here. And maybe that really is the next step, is which ones would you absolutely not want to have in there versus what you might want to consider. If that is truly just amusement parks, that is relatively easy. If you move into the others, we won't have much, I think, in a way of estimating revenue for you until we actually impose it and have a collection rate.
So we can go through this list and tell you what we think we might vote on and exclude everything else.
Sure.
Yeah, because this something like Sweet Haven Lavender Farm, my God, that's just somebody trying to make a living. It's just too hard. It's just, I don't know. I don't agree with it at all, but I can make a list. So we can do that at our next meeting, right? Correct?
Well, and just to add, which will come as no surprise, I think that we've heard very clearly the pressure on our residents and the taxes, and people do make choices on what they do. I remember vividly when a $75 fee for a children's program was a big deal for my family. So to say that increasing real estate tax $30 or $40 a month, increasing meal tax $2 a meal, and then also increasing admissions tax is doable for a good portion, 25 to 50% of the families in our county. It's not. It is a hardship, and they will go without a lot of things and have to make a lot of hard decisions. And I'm not comfortable making a decision on an admissions tax without knowing what our other taxes are, and not interested in any at all. I understand the challenge with our amusement parks that are tied together with their tickets. If York County does something and we don't. So at this point, that's the only entity I would be willing to consider. But I'm really just, people will go less and they will spend less. They will make those calculations and they will skip a movie. They will skip going to a sporting event. They may not notice a few cents on a $120 ticket, but all of the other events, again, I'll repeat what I said at our last meeting, it feels punitive because we have to remember this is on top of a 7% tax already on every single purchase in the county.
So, just to provide disclosure, I know Ms. Rothschild asked earlier about what my position was on this
It would help
admissions tax.
if we could not talk in the audience because I have trouble hearing up here. Thank you.
And I'll simply say that in terms of the admissions tax, we are often asked to try to find ways to expand our tax base beyond residential property. This is an opportunity for us to provide additional revenue to the community that will be primarily carried by visitors to the area. I'm not interested in a 10% rate, but I am interested in applying an admissions tax, perhaps at the 5 or 6 cent percent rate, because I think that will provide us with a great opportunity to invest in the county's services in a way that will not involve having to rely solely on residential property taxes. We have been working diligently to improve our economic opportunities in the community, and they will produce revenue for us as we see new industry coming into the community, as we see expansion of existing businesses. And this is a tax that most amusement parks around the country, I would say, already have in place. And the customers of those parks do recognize that that's part of the cost. It's a relatively modest one, frankly, at 5 or 6%, and I think that it will be welcomed by the community at large. Several years ago, we had a referendum on the question of whether we wanted to have a meals tax. The General Assembly said, well, you can have a meals tax, but you can't have it without a referendum by the citizens. And the citizens voted to impose a meals tax. They did so because they knew that that meals tax would be primarily borne by people who were visiting the area and eating in establishments in the community. And they did so with an understanding that it would also affect them to some degree, but reduce the burden that would ultimately fall back to residential property taxes. So I think that it makes good sense for us to take advantage of the fact that the legislature has now given us the authority, and the governor signed the legislation after being the only county, along with York, in the Commonwealth to not have this ability to apply an admissions tax, that we should take that opportunity now to implement it so that we can put it into effect by July 1st. So, and again, I think everyone understands that we're not talking about, and I've gotten a number of emails related to this, talking about doing things like charging people a tax on their ticket to attend a high school musical. This is not something that a dance company of children from the community would be subject to. At least I wouldn't support that. This is really something that is a reflection of the fact that citizens welcome visitors, but also recognize that those visitors do impose something of a cost on the community as well. And we need to be able to take advantage of this opportunity that the legislature has given us now.
I would ask County Administrator, my understanding is that when we're looking at this, that the category of amusement parks and theme parks, essentially, if you look at all of these potential classifications, that category probably would represent the better part of 95 to 98% of any potential revenue. Is that correct?
We believe is a very high percentage
high
in that 80
percentage.
to 90% range
Okay.
of total revenue to be available.
So based on that, that's why I would focus strictly on that and leave all the rest of the, sporting events, dances, museums, ice skating, all that leave all that untouched. And I think we need to take a look. I think it's pretty clear that the majority on the board, there's nobody on the board who wants to go to 10%. The question is, where do we wind up? And I think we need to work on this one very diligently with York, because I think it would be beneficial, given the proximity of the two major parks, to try to be on the same sheet of music with them if we can. So I think that whatever information you could bring back to us at later meeting, do you need a formal motion for a particular time, or just a direction to come back to? Okay.
I don't think we need a motion to bring it back. We will bring that information back, maybe, well, that's a May, June, July timeframe, but as they move forward and make a decision on where they're headed, we would bring that to you.
Thank you.
I think we would like to have a decision made by July 1st to take advantage of the opportunities to demonstrate to credit rating agencies that we are dedicating resources to the fiscal stability of the county.
We'll work towards that.
Okay. I think that completes our public hearings for this evening. And now,
Does this public hearing get left open? Closed. Okay, thank you.
I'll close the public hearing. Yeah, I did. I think I did. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we have board considerations. We'll take just a second if folks want to leave. I know it's late, so you may not like being out this late. Okay, we go on to board considerations, and we have, the first item is Z 250006 MP20, is that right? Yeah. 250004, Proffer and Master Plan Amendment for Ford's Colony Master Plan, Ford's Village. Morgan Reisinger. Morgan?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. The board discussed the proposed Proffer and Master Plan Amendment for the Ford's Village development at its February 10th, 2026 regular meeting, before postponing consideration to tonight's meeting. Part of that discussion included questions pertaining to the proposed minimum number of assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing units, whether the secondary entrance to the property would be a full public access entrance, and the number of residential building permits that could be issued prior to construction commencing for the assisted living facility in the CCRCD land area. To address these questions, the applicant has made several changes to the application. First, the applicant has revised Proffer number 3A to increase the minimum number of assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing units in the CCRCD land area from 40 to 46. The total amount of units within the CCRCD land area will continue to be 200 units, meaning that no more than 154 independent living apartments could be constructed. For the overall master plan, there will continue to be a total of 470 independent living units and assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing units. Second, the applicant has completed a supplemental traffic analysis to confirm whether the proposed secondary entrance would meet VDOT requirements for a public access entrance. This analysis concluded that the entrance would exceed the minimum site distance for a public entrance, would exceed the minimum separation distance from other entrances and intersections, and would not warrant the installation of turn lanes. VDOT reviewed this analysis and concurred with the findings. Accordingly, the applicant has revised Proffer number 6D to remove the stipulation that the secondary entrance could only be used for emergency access until that supplemental traffic analysis is completed. Third, the applicant has revised proffer number 17 to decrease the number of residential building permits that may be issued within CCRC A, B, and C land areas before construction has commenced on the assisted living facility in the CCRC D land area from 100 to 50 units. With this change, proffer number 17 is the same as previously approved in 2022. With these changes, the application is anticipated to have a positive fiscal impact, is not anticipated to generate student enrollment or impacts on schools, is not expected to result in an increased number of vehicular trips to and from the property, and that appropriate amenities are provided for the development. However, the application does not propose 20% of units affordable to the 0 to 80% AMI ranges as recommended in the comprehensive plan. Overall, staff finds that the application is generally consistent with the zoning ordinance, applicable policies, and the comprehensive plan. Staff recommends the Board of Supervisors approve this application, subject to the proposed proffers. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant team is in attendance as well. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have questions for Ms. Reisinger? All right, well, we have a proposal in front of us. Anybody have a motion?
I'll start. Clearly go on record as having opposed this every incarnation along the way. For one primary reason is that it is too intensive a development for too small a piece of property. It always has been. It hasn't gotten a whole lot better. If you go back and take a look at what was done, this was made part of the Ford's Colony Master Plan. It's not part of Ford's Colony. It was part of Ford's Colony for one reason and one reason only, and that is because you could put high density, very, very high density on this piece of property if you could wash the density across 3,000 acres of Ford's Colony, because Ford's Colony was limited to 2 units per acre, and we're only at about 1.6, 1.5. So, you know, you could put a huge, huge number. You could put 5 times the units on that piece of property and not exceed the maximum for Ford's Colony. So it's a joke. It's a joke. It was basically designed to get the highest possible density on a piece of property that's right on the main stem of Powhatan Creek. You know, in my mind, I constantly have to evaluate it from the point of view of what the comp plan says. The comp plan says this should be low-density residential. Low-density residential is 1 unit to 4 units per acre. You start at 1, you work up to 4. When you get toward 4, it's based upon what benefit does it provide the community. When there are some benefits to the community. And I'll tell you the pros on this thing. The pros on this thing as it stands right now is that it's an age 55 plus community. It doesn't generate school kids. So that makes it positive fiscal impact to the tune of about $2 million a year, which is, pardon me, helped by the fact that there's no affordable housing and that the price points in these houses are going to be really, really high. You know, somewhere in the 800 to 1,000 or more. Maybe a couple of them are smaller, but most of them are going to be higher. And so when we take a look at what the density would be, if you divide the density the way we're doing it nowadays over the buildable space, the developable space, and the number of units that we have, it works out to be 4.52. So it's really off the scale. It's just not, it's too much. It's 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. It's my favorite expression for it. It hasn't changed. Be that as it may, it got passed twice. And where it stands right now is it stands at an assisted living facility that was a total of 200 units, of which 125 were going to be assisted living and the rest were going to be individual apartments. Well, when that developer pulled out and they had to find somebody else, they wanted to lower that number. So where we are right now today is they want to do 46, which is, you know, if you take a look at it, we're looking at about 2/3 fewer assisted living facilities guaranteed. And the reason there's a minimum is because that's what they want to do. Now, if the market drives it, they might increase some, but there's no guarantee that they will. And what we really do need is we really do need what the 125. That's the benefit. One of the benefits to this is that it does provide assisted living, or the current one does provide assisted living facilities at 125 units. It also does positive cash proffers. Cash proffers are about $1.4 million. So the cons are, it is that significant decrease from 125 to 46 in the assisted living. That alone is the driving factor for me today. Whether I would, supported it before or not, it's really sort of irrelevant. It just keeps getting less and less for the citizens and more for the developer. Big thing I would tell you is that this is on, part of this property is on the main stem of Powhatan Creek. If you look at the map, you'll see on the left-hand side, that's the Powhatan Creek, right along the left-hand border of that property. Right down the middle of this little triangle is the division line between the main stem and what they call subwatershed 209. And subwatershed 209 includes a lot of Ford's Colony, runs on up back through Windsor Mead and places like that. It's pretty well developed. This is one of the last two pieces of property in the subwatershed that are still open for development. The comprehensive plan, the Powhatan Creek Watershed Management Plan basically says that as it stands at the last iteration of the plan, until I think 2023, 25, something like that, it was the subwatershed, the impervious cover was at 24%. Now the categories basically are, it's sensitive up to about 10%, between 10 and 25%, the degradation of the streams and the ecosystem become more and more progressed to where it becomes impacted, and then when it reaches 25%, it becomes non-supporting. And we are to the point where we're 1 percentage point away from non-supporting. This drives it over that. The addition of impervious cover on the entire process here is about 26 acres over this entire thing in the two subwatersheds. But I asked for the division of how it worked out in the subwatershed, and it's about 17 or 18 acres of it is in the subwatershed 208. So that we become a non-supporting stream, non-supporting subwatershed. We're getting that way all through Powhatan Creek. Pretty soon, we're still not done. So that's a big factor. As I said, there's no affordable housing component. There are, I believe, 2 beds that are set aside for our people who need assistance that could get into the assisted living facility. But that's 2 of the 46. And then the elephant in the room. And that's the one we really haven't talked about much before because we found out about it in January. And that is, we have an existing problem that exists today with the current housing stock that we have today. And it's basically driven by the HRSD force main that takes all the sewage down to the Lower Peninsula for treatment and disposal. It reaches capacity in high rain, wet weather, storm events. It gets the pressure so high in that stream that we can't get stuff forced in. We have no ability, and we get sewage overflows and spills, which we're already under a consent agreement with the EPA about sewer spills. So it creates a problem that we jointly between JCSA and HRSD don't have the capacity to handle that under certain circumstances, not on a day-to-day basis, but on certain circumstances. And every house we add makes it worse. And until there is a longer-term plan on how to fix that, and I think we've come to the conclusion that it's going to take a redundant parallel pipe to reduce the pressures in that system to transfer what we need from James City County down to them in the future. That's not going to be cheap. That's a major infrastructure project that will affect every development we have, including the thousands that are approved and haven't been built yet that we can't stop. So the question becomes, what do we do? Are we going to keep adding more? I know we have some Proffer language that we've talking about for some newer ones that are coming along that recognize this and put a little caveat in there. But this is an already approved one. It's already been approved. We're just looking to modify it right now. But that's a factor. We've got to consider all that. So I don't think what's being asked of us is an improvement. If we vote no on this tonight, it doesn't mean it goes away. It simply stays the way it is right now, which means that it's still at 125. The developer can decide whether they want to do it or not. If we do vote yes for it, we're saying, all right, we're going to let you have all the houses, but we're going to take less benefit to the community. So I'm unable to support the application again this evening, but I wanted to make sure that everybody had a clear understanding of exactly why. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Eisner. Who else would like to speak?
I'd like to say, I was on the Planning Commission when they first came to us a few years ago. And one of my big concerns of any development is that you have to have 2 roads in and 2 roads out. It's just a safety concern. And at that time, they said, sure, we'll put in a second gate or a second road on News Road or wherever it has to be. So they're backing away from that now, and that was a VDOT thing, right, Morgan? They said VDOT said they didn't have to have it yet, a second road.
What the traffic study and what VDOT has concurred with is saying that that second road on the plan can be a public entrance.
Can be.
Yes.
So they have it in, okay, so they're doing that. Okay, thank you. And I'm just really concerned about the reduction in the assisted living facility. I mean, if anybody's run into that with one of their family members and they have to go into one, there's waiting lists everywhere. We need them here. I'm one of the part that's over 55. A lot of us are, and that's something we need to have. I mean, the one that we were going to have in front of Colonial Heritage may never come about, and we approved this a few years ago on the 125, and I would like to see the 125 back again. And we just had a high growth county meeting like a week ago Thursday, where we talked about all this, how we handle high growth, how we handle everybody wanting to come in. And I asked Mr. Holt, I said, how many lots are available in James City County that are buildable by right now? He said 7,000. So it makes you wonder whether we need more housing at all. But we certainly do need affordable housing. So if we've got 7,000 people that decide they're going to build or whatever, 1,000 of them or more are up in Stonehouse District at the top of the Stonehouse development. But we've got to think about this, like Mr. Eisenhower said. You know, how are we going to provide all these people with water or all these mixed developments with new schools and so forth? So but the assisted living is really the one that's got me going, you know, because we need that. I mean, that's a need. I don't know that everything else, or the road is a need too, so thank God for that. But,
So I'll add on to that. The rationale between changing the ratio was based on demand. And I understand there is a demand. There are waiting lists for assisted living units, but there's also waiting lists for independent living units. I've been doing a lot of research in that area lately, looking for facilities. And what we do not have a lot of is actual continuing care. A lot of options. There are some locally that go from independent to assisted to memory care. And if anybody knows, if you have someone who is in that situation who still is functioning well enough to be an independent, but is on the cusp, or maybe they need some help with minor things, with the anticipation, because we know dementia and Alzheimer's progresses sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly. The best option is to be able to keep them in the same facility throughout that process. And the reason it's become a challenge to build the higher assisted living facilities is more people are choosing to move out of their homes before they have to. Because we have had parents and aunts and uncles and great aunts and uncles, that's kind of been the life we've been watching for the last 5 to 10 years. And I've seen it change a lot since my grandparents had to make that choice over 20 years ago until now. And what I'm seeing is people are looking for the amenities, someone who can, they don't have to clean, they don't have to take care of the yard, they don't have to cook their meals, they don't have to wash dishes, but they want the amenities. And that to me is what this offers. And to insist that something be built under parameters that can't be sold or you can't find a developer for doesn't make sense to me. If the market demands something, then you can adjust that. And we had that conversation before that with it being a minimum, there is room for adjustment if the market demands it. But what I've seen, my observations, is that there is more demand also for independent units. I find it interesting that I was reading the note here that says that the assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing beds are not considered dwelling units and not considered in the density. However, the independent living units are. So while that number of units hasn't changed, because they're calculated, that is what increases the density. So I don't, I guess I feel on the opposite on the independent living offering because I feel like there is a higher demand for that. But also, as I'm looking over here, and this would probably be a question for those involved in the process, what I'm seeing is the application details from 2022. There were a total of 345 units instead of the 470. And that just sparks my curiosity on where that change came from and the purpose behind that change. And if I'm reading this correct, the total units has changed in that 4 years. It has not. So this chart is incorrect. Okay.
Sorry,
Okay,
Nate, if
yeah.
I could just offer
Yeah,
for that point.
absolutely.
As you point out, the assisted living units do not count towards the residential density. So the charts that calculate the density of the units per acre doesn't account for those. But yes, the overall total in 2022 was 470, and that's 270 single-family, multifamily units, 75 independent living apartments, and then 125 assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing.
So that's just a category, the categorization
Yes.
change is showing up in that overall number. Okay. Yeah, I'm really conflicted because I can have concerns about the issues with JCSA and HRSD and the numbers. I'm also conflicted that this has been on hold and has previously been approved as well. And I feel like while there is definitely a need for more affordable housing, and I'm excited about that we're digging into kind of those situations, and we even had someone talk tonight about like where can we find ideas to make it more, produce more options. There is also a need for people who are living in high dollar, high square footage houses who want the same standard of housing and want the same amenities that they've been offered, but they want to move to smaller houses. And that's what I see that this development affords. So I'm very conflicted, but I lean towards it's been pre-approved. And if the only hiccup is the change in the numbers, that's based on market demand, which makes sense to me. So that's where I sit.
Well, I voted against the plan when it came before us before, and this does not represent an improvement from my perspective, so I'll be voting against as well. Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny.
A motion to deny has been made. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Ms. Knoll,
No, Nally. Aye.
Ms. Larson?
No.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Ms. Wainwright?
No.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye. Motion approved. Well, I guess.
We need to have another
Do we need
motion
to
to approve.
do we need to do a
I think
second vote?
that one failed, you'd have to, I think you'd vote again to
Okay,
approve it.
right. Okay, so we have a motion to approve. Anybody want to make that motion?
So it was Ms. Nolan, aye, or the denial?
She was, Ms. Knoll, you voted no, right?
Yes, I voted no.
You voted no against the
Against
denial.
Mr. Eisenhower's
Okay.
resolution.
And you voted no on the denial.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it failed.
okay, right. So is there a motion to approve? Well, you voted not to. Not
Ms.
to
Wainwright
deny.
moved the motion.
Okay, great. Okay, we have a motion to approve. Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Ms. Knoll? Ms. Wainwright?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
No.
Mr. McGlinnan?
No.
Motion carries.
Okay, board consideration we just had that one item, the other was deferred. Board requests and directives. Ms. Wainwright?
Sure. So I'll give everybody a second to
Sure.
head on to dinner.
You're missing the best part.
No one ever sticks around for this part.
Approved.
It was approved. The change in the CCRC was approved. Okay. So last Friday on the 1st, I started my next round of VACO training. So doing planning, I will say that is a lot more fun and interesting than the budget session was. Also on, and I'm trying to keep up what day, yes. So on the 6th, last Wednesday, Mrs. Knoll and I were able to attend the VPRJ National Correction Officers and Employers Week and National Nurses Week lunch at our local regional jail. They had a lot of their suppliers come in and donate lunch. We had delicious barbecue. We got to visit with a lot of our correction officers and the nurses who work there, as I said to them, behind closed doors, day in and day out, and they are much appreciated and don't get to see that. Also, with Supervisors Eisenhower McGlinnan, attended the Williamsburg James City County Schools Impact Awards Gala at the museum there at CW. And that was a lovely event to get to see the teachers in our schools and support staff get recognized for their hard work, which also happens very much behind walls and doors that most people don't see. Not directly connected, but I was grateful to be able to attend the Williamsburg Christian Retreat Center's gala. It's their first, and I forget what they called it, was Cowboy something, fundraiser that they had on Saturday, and it was a beautiful night, which was good because it was outside. So we all see this time of year, it could be 35 degrees or it could be 90 degrees. So that was a great event, and just want to pass along a message to the rest of the board from our dear Peg Borman. She said to tell you she's sorry she could not be here tonight. She is fine. She just has some things going on that prevented her from being here, but she wanted to send her love to each one of the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you for the message.
Yep.
But she's out driving around, so she's okay. I've seen her driving around and pulling up next
Well,
to me.
maybe we ought to stay off the road.
And I don't have much except going to the jail, and they presented me with a lovely trophy, and it was very beautiful, and I miss them, but it was really nice. It's good to be still involved down there, which I've asked to be. That's about it, because we met last week, right?
It's been quick.
It was a quick one.
I'll jump in. 3rd of May, went to the Sons of the American Revolution, had a gathering out at Upper County Park, believe it or not, and it was to commemorate the gunpowder incident. And it was very well attended. Sons of the American Revolution, Daughters of the American Revolution, Children of the American Revolution. Had quite a group. And it would, something like I say, every day I go to one of these things, I learn something I didn't know before. I remembered the gunpowder incident being April 21st, 1775, where the royal governor said, took the gunpowder out of the magazine and put it off by British Marines, carried it off, put it on British ships, and they happened to be noticed, and a bunch of people got really upset about it. It's not the least of whom was Patrick Henry, and he got his militia together and started marching on Williamsburg. And understand that that was when Lord Dunmore decided it was time to depart, and he left the capital. And Patrick Henry's folks stopped up around West Point, and a gentleman named Carter Braxton came down and tried to defuse the situation, and actually got the remaining British structure that was left in town that hadn't left to pay compensation for the gunpowder, which I never knew about. And I guess that defused it, and the militia then went back home, and we became, we didn't become the second one in a couple of weeks to have a running gun battle like they did up in Lexington and Concord. So that took a little while longer, but I appreciate all the people in the Sons of the American Revolution, Daughters of the American Revolution, and everything to bring that to us. The only other question I had was we had a glow fiber outlet outage in a lot of the Ford's Colony area, and Scott, I understand that it was caused by one of the contractors who was working along 199 at Long Hill, and I don't, if we could get some background into what happened there, I'd appreciate it, because it seemed to be sort of scattered, quite scattered. Some areas were without it, and it took up to 12 hours for some of our folks to get their service back. So.
Just a couple of housekeeping. Last Thursday, I participated in a tourism summit, the first that Visit Williamsburg has put on, brought in the head of Destinations International. Just a anecdote. I was unable to attend the WJCC because we went out to dinner with the Destinations International at one of our more expensive restaurants, which, by the way, was completely full, with people waiting to get in. So, and that was in the city. So that the increase in their meals tax does not seem to be hurting, at least in that particular restaurant, I will say, on a Thursday night. But the tourism summit was extremely informational, great panels, including Mr. Stevens, who participated in one regarding the sports center. We also had one about the 250 events that are coming up and that have happened, and so I hope they do it again next year. And I have often said that I felt as though we should be doing a state of the county, where we brought people in, talked about what we are doing as a county, what are some of the things coming ahead. And so I said to Mr. Stevens on that day, I would love to have a way to maybe pull all of that together, have the three, the city manager, the two county administrators, and have them give a, state of the county, state of the city address. I think it would be very interesting. It's okay. Everything okay? Okay. All right. Then just one other big event this week. Well, we have two. We have a Kongsberg opening of their offices, which I think is really exciting, getting them here in James City County. And then on Friday, we have the Today Show coming, third hour at 9 o'clock. And they're going to be, I think they've already been out and about, but they will be out and about tomorrow, filming segments at the different destinations in all three localities. So a lot going on, really exciting time. I did just want to address a couple of things. One, I don't take something like an admissions tax lightly, but I do consider, I believe what Chair McGlennon talked about was about visitation. And I do think that it is important, again, to point out that the 1% extra sales tax that we pay, where 0.5% goes back to the localities and 0.5% go back to marketing the destination, has made a tremendous difference in the marketing of the destination. It's also made a tremendous difference to our real estate tax rate, and that's 5 cents that we have not added on to our real estate tax rate and been able to put towards our capital improvement. And so when you have an additional tax that is shared more widely, by our visitors, and is not, so, I mean, our other option is that we can not reduce our real estate tax rate, but we can't have it all. And I do believe that we are very fiscally prudent with our budget, and I don't think there's a member up here who wouldn't encourage the county administrator to continue to do everything that he can do, and I believe that you do that in the budget process, to make sure that we are spending wisely, that we are keeping expenses down where we can, and that we are being very prudent with taxpayer dollars. But something at some point has to give, and whether that's our services so it's just not easy just to say, well, we don't want to do an emissions tax, we want to cut the tax rate. At some point we have to do something. And there was also sort of a, I guess, this that we listen, but we don't understand, that came out in a news article today. And I can assure you I understand. I take my mother's house, for instance, that I've talked about up here. My mom is senior citizen, 83 years old, up until this year worked full-time as a registered nurse still, in part because to pay for her living expenses. She bought a home for $71,500 that is now valued at $272,000. I imagine that's quite a big leap for my mom. She never moved. She's done very little improvements to her home other than new windows and a few other improvements, but she hasn't been able to do a lot to her home, and because of where she lives, she has seen this type of increase. But I will also share with you that my mother has never complained about that because she realizes the high quality of life that she has here in James City County. My father, up until his death, also lived here in a very modest home. My husband and I have stayed in the same home for 20 years, partly because we had 3 kids. 3 kids went to school, and 3 kids in sports, etc. So we've lived that way. So I do have a deep understanding and try to be very cautious. That's why I look at things like admissions tax, other ways to have taxes collected that the whole burden will not be on real estate. So, thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a couple of quick points. One is that I realize it wasn't this past Saturday, but the Saturday before, I had the opportunity to visit with our police department at their open house, which was a very nice event. Ms. Null was there as well. I think she was more there as a volunteer, weren't you?
I was there as a volunteer.
Yeah, but it was a great demonstration of all the technology that the police department is implementing, and the tremendous sense of pride they have in the positions that they hold, and the opportunities that they have to be involved in specialized teams. Especially the SWAT team, I know, is very excited to show their materials, and the drone operators were really giving a great show to a lot of folks. So it was a very nice event. I want to thank the police department for the invitation to.
Had at least 100. Mark was saying he thinks it was well over 100 people, and I said it
Yeah.
should have been 200. We can advertise it more next
Tell
year.
them next year
Because
we'll
it
have
was-
more Halloween candy.
Yeah, well, the kids
They'll
loved
be
going
there.
in the shooting. You know,
Mhm.
that was the most popular.
Yeah.
And then outside when they were blowing the doors open and stuff, the SWAT guys.
Right, but it was
And the
just
dogs.
great to see the police department, reaching out and
they're
trying
great.
to show the community what a great job they're doing, and how much benefit they get from our county police department. Which is part of the cost of doing business, and I think we know that the ability to retain our police officers is dependent upon our providing the kind of equipment training and programming that we do for the department, as well as providing generous pay and benefits for them. So all of that goes into determining, how we're going to operate effectively. I know that it was not this past Saturday, because this past Saturday I was recovering from outpatient surgery. I actually had a robot inside me, so it was very exciting to have the Da Vinci. But as you can see, I'm still alive, still here, and everything went well. So that was great, and I appreciate Dr. Walsh, who is a resident of Ford's Colony, and just wanted to say that that was an experience that sort of made it difficult to carry out some of the things I might normally have done on that weekend. Also, that teacher event was very well done, I thought.
Usually is.
And it was great to recognize all of the individuals, and the winner of the Teacher of the Year, who's from Stonehouse Elementary, and was selected to represent the system in the state's consideration of Teacher of the Year. So congratulations to all of those who were recognized at that Impact Awards event. I just also did want to make clear that people understand some erroneous information that apparently was published this morning. It is in fact the case that I think a correction has been made to one of our online publications that suggested that Ms. Wainwright had a somewhat larger family than is actually the case. But I don't think have corrected the fact that at least I haven't been notified that I am retired. And I think my students who are expecting me to be entering their grades soon would be surprised to hear that I'm retired. But, I think it is important, especially in today's age where so much is in question, that journalists who want to have a good reputation check their sources a little bit more carefully. Maybe we ought to think about, I don't know, taxing airplanes at a higher rate. Anyway, that's not on our agenda here. I'll just leave it, I think I'll just leave it with that and turn it over to Mr. Stevens.
Well, I would just real quickly add that I believe tonight or tomorrow night, the schools will be rolling out their redistricting. They've got, and we just want to do a nice reminder that if parents have any issues, they are to contact their school board representative. You can find them on the wjcc.org website. That's who you should contact about any questions.
I don't have anything to share with you this evening that
You
I haven't
don't?
done recently. We've seen you a lot, and I'll save my comments for next time.
All righty, that's very good. Well, with that, do we have no closed session for tonight, right?
No, sir.
So do I have a motion to adjourn until 1 p.m. on May 26th, 2026 for the business meeting? We have a motion. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Ms. Wainwright?
Aye.
Ms. Knoll?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Meeting adjourned.